Welcome to Voices in Hyperspace, where friends discuss the 90s sci-fi series Babylon 5. Today we're exploring Season 2, Confessions and Lamentations. This powerful episode tackles a deadly plague threatening an entire alien race. We'll examine how characters handle tragedy from idealistic hope to cynical realism. Confessions and Lamentations resonates deeply with our recent COVID-19 experiences despite being written decades earlier. It explores themes of fear, isolation, and the race for a cure. Join us as we dissect this thought-provoking episode that challenges our perspectives and perceptions of faith, science, and the human spirit in the face of overwhelming odds. I'm the Rebel Nita.
I'm Captain Melisilo.
I'm Legendary Black Lion.
Hey y'all, this is Sunday.
And we're all here. This is a wild episode to be watching in 2024 because it's almost we don't do anything different ever. We have the Marcab, which I wanted to point out. Dr. Franklin did mention them in previous episodes. He has like a Marcab doctor that he talks to. They've been throwing in some breadcrumbs about, okay, there's this alien species. You're like, who are they? Oh, well, Dr. Franklin knows them. I know a good Marcab doctor. And we got to see that doctor. We start off this episode with Captain Sheridan doing something official. He goes to CNC and he's wanting Ivanova to sign off some stuff. And she's all like handling things that are going on as far as like, her managing transports and all of that. And she interrupts with news that like, hey, we've been looking for this ship and they are like 10 hours overdue. The idea is like, okay, we have the Furies to go check them out. And she's like, okay, cool. We'll do it when Lieutenant Keffer, which I keep calling him Kiefer, but I guess we've been mispronouncing that. That's okay. He is not fermented milk. But he's been apparently conducting these unauthorized expeditions into hyperspace it's off duty, but it's without anybody's notification. And I'm wondering, how does that work? Like, how do you take a whole ship into hyperspace and it's like nobody's business, right? But Sheridan's like, hey, you know what? I think I know what's going on with that, and he needs to stop because remember, we need to keep the shadows and secrets. And if guys like Keffer are like poking around, they're gonna find out the secret, and we're not ready. We're gonna get annihilated by them. So tell him no more unauthorized flights. And she's like, all right. Do y'all notice how Ivanova is like super official this episode? She's very helpful. She's doing her station ops thing. She's not really projecting the way Ivanova normally is. Y'all see that?
Her character, she was doing her job, but not her character.
Yeah, I don't really think it's out of character. It's just that we're not focusing on her, and that's just kind of how she is throughout the whole episode. She's kind of like, yes, sir. Alrighty, sir. We'll be, sir. We'll do, sir. In the medical bay, Dr. Franklin is examining a deceased Marcab. Oh, wait. You know what? It was last episode that the thing that was the alien that was possessed by the temporal thing was a Marcab. And he's the guy that had his head bashed open. So
yeah,
that's why he was like, yeah, I knew a good Marcab doctor. We'll figure this out.
Then they brought it right back in the next episode. Yay.
Excellent.
Making things relevant.
Yes, there you go.
We've seen some aliens in this show that never come back. It's like they were just there to be there. Like
some extras.
Yeah.
Really go crazy and kill himself, or did he die from this disease and then it went unnoticed?
Maybe that alien, maybe the temporal alien was like, this guy's diseased. Let me find a human who isn't. That'll help me. And so Franklin is examining the dead Marcab, and then the Marcab doctor, Lazarin, that he knows, appears. He's like super irritated. He's like, look, this is our people. He died of natural causes. We don't really need to look into this, Dr. Franklin. Mind your business. You need to get on out of here, Franklin. And Franklin's like, all right, okay, I understand, but we just want to know more. Like, we don't know a lot about you people,
Wow.
but we want to know more. And so, come to find out, we got Zeta Squad getting their briefing about the missing Marcab ship. That's like, 10 hours late. And then, at this point, this is where Kefir is warned about doing his off-duty stuff. He's like, oh, man. But I like the way that they use him. Because remember before, he was kind of like the hotshot pilot. But he's coming across a lot more intelligent now. He doesn't, he's not like a dumb military guy. I don't know the best way to explain it.
He seemed more like a background character before, even though he was a main character.
It's hard to say, right?
He's a part of the main cast, but he's still a background character. That's how it felt to me.
Because this is how you know you got a main character. They are irritated by Garibaldi.
I must be a main character then.
You said you must be a main character?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, then Damien's got to be the lead because every time Garibaldi comes on the screen, he just like yells a slur at the TV.
So we then see that Sheridan has been invited to have dinner with Delenn. If you don't remember what happened in the last couple of episodes, this might seem out of nowhere, but basically this is Sheridan kind of being brought into the circle of like knowing what the greater threat in the galaxy is. And Delenn, she knows more than she has been letting on the entire time she's been on the show. And so now they're like, okay, Sheridan is going to be learning from Ambassador Kosh. He might as well learn from Delenn because Kosh is not really showing him anything that he understands. But Delenn explains things kind of sort of in a very like woo-woo existential, the galaxy breeze and thinks with you way. Mm-hmm. So they have dinner. And this is where we're learning more about Minbari culture. And we learn that Lanier prepares the meal and there are rituals that need to be done during the preparation. And now that it's prepared, you have to do all these rituals during the meal. Before we eat, we show our thanks and gratitude to the preparer. And we offer him a piece of our meal. And so, okay, you do that. And then before you eat, we have to offer a piece of our meal in the place that has been reserved for Valen's return. Who is Valen? Apparently, the Minbari's. It sounds like, yeah, the Minbari's Jesus. It's kind of like a deity, but like an actual person. So they do that. And then if you eat, then you have to meditate between bites before you eat again. It's wild. Very boring. Zeta Squadron, they discover the lost ship. It is the Cardi B. They find the ship. Effer's like, okay, cool. So what's going on with the ship? The computer, the computer sounding all weird. It's like, yeah, I detect 203 life forms. And he's like, you didn't say life signs. And it's like, no, I didn't say life signs because all of them is dead. And while that's going on, Dr. Franklin, he's all very serious. He's finding that some things are not right with the autopsy of the earlier dead Marcab. And there are 3 more dead Marcabs that he's like, hey, did y'all ship those bodies yet? And they're like, no. He's like, great, bring them down here because I believe they are lying to us. Something's wrong. Let me chop these bodies up myself. He didn't say all that, but he was like, let me investigate. And it's kind of like this is the Dr. Franklin episode, right? Do we all agree on that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a medical one, so yeah.
Yeah. And we're seeing that he believes that he's being lied to. And he's catching on. So while he's trying to investigate and do autopsies on these 3 dead ones, Zeta Squad is returning with the Cardi. They're bringing the ship full of dead people to the station, and they request a full medical team because he's like, hey, look, everybody on this ship is dead. We don't know why everybody's dead, and I think we might be in trouble here. In the meantime, Sheridan is, well, I won't say he's passed out sleep, but he's
quote unquote not meditating.
Yeah. And he is snoring. Yeah, he's snoring. And basically he startled awake and he's all like, yo, thank you for dinner. My bad. Delenn is like, it's all good. The ritual, the meal had ended some time ago before you're meditating. The crew calls him away for the ship that arrives, and he's like, my bad, I am so sorry. Which this comes across as like somebody who's trying really hard to understand the culture, and he's just like, I know I'm messing up, my bad, but I gotta go to work. And Lanier, they don't show what the Minbari are talking about, but Lanier and Delenn have an exchange, and Lanier is kind of like disappointed, and I'm wondering like if there was like some sort of expectation there. It's not fully, I don't fully understand. But
yeah, we don't know what they're quite mad at, or well, not really mad, but
because earlier they insinuated like if Sheridan messed up any step in the ritual in the dinner, Lanier would have to start all over again. It takes 2 days to cook. And there's flarn. I don't know what flarn is. That's kind of weird. I know what flan is. Anyway.
Try some alien food. It'd be nice to throw in some alien food occasionally.
It didn't even really look cooked. It just looked like leaves or lettuce.
I thought it looked like gelatin.
I thought it was like a filleted piece of something. Yeah, maybe agar.
Yeah, something.
Because it was kind of transparent. They tried really hard to make alien food.
And they talked about spices, but that didn't look like there was any like flavor on it.
Not at all. Their ancestors is too far away to tell them when to start, let alone stop.
Maybe part of the 2-day 15 process of the spices was them infusing it into water that was then spritzed onto the food.
Oh my god. As they are praying to Valen about how to be blessed by the nourishment of the food from the crystals. I don't know. To become one with the universe or something. I don't know.
They have to become. You have to transform to become part of the universe. So they transform the spices into another form.
Oh my god! So Sheridan is confronted at Docking Bay 14. Lazarin is blocking access to the Cardi because he's like, "Look, this is a private matter, and we need to just handle this by ourselves. You don't need to investigate this." And Franklin is like, "Look, this is what I found out. Them 3 dead Markabs, there's some sort of infection, and it is killing y'all, and y'all are lying about this. This is not natural." And then Lazarin is like, okay, cool. Look, listen. There is a disease, and we thought like on our planet that only one little place got it, and then it kind of died out. And Franklin's like, look, you are a doctor. You should know how evolution works with these diseases. Like this could have been dormant for such a long time. Like why would you lie about it? And then this is where Lazarin explains the whole thing about the disease. And I was hoping to get some comments about this because this is where we learn that the disease is called the Drafa. It's a plague, and the people kind of formed like mythology around it. It is seen as a design punishment for immorality. Mentioning it is a taboo. People who are infected, they often hide their conditions, and they used it as a way to scare young children by saying like, "Oh, be good," or what do you say? The dark angel will punish you with the drafta, and so it sounds like something really serious was happening with the Markab, but because they were such, I'm gonna use this word, they were such fundamentalists about things like disease and stuff, it became a taboo, and so people would get sick and they would hide it, and it would spread the disease.
One of the immoral ones.
Yeah. You can't, because it was a judgment of your morality. It wasn't like, hey, this disease is killing us. It's like, no, it's not nature. It's you. You're bad. And Franklin compares it to the black plague. Is that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really love that part. Did he say that it was 3/4 of Europe or
Yeah.
2/3, something like that. But anyway, they were assuming that because it was something like the devil had sense and that cats were the devil's like foot soldiers, that they should kill all the cats. And it's like the levity behind it, that the cats were the ones that were doing the best at controlling the disease by eating the rodents and the fleas that were carrying the disease,
Yeah.
was
Mm-hmm.
just,
Yeah.
it's priceless. It's like, wow, like you're killing the very chance that you have, the only ally that you've got in fighting against this disease, because you don't want to wash your hands and you still want to spit on birthday cake, and
Oh my God.
it's wild.
That was part of the myth of witches, because they know there's some women, especially ones that were brewing beer, who had huge pots that they stir up the beer with and was mixing stuff, kept cats around in order to, keep stuff away from like mice and stuff out of their barley, so that they could continue to make beer and make money. So if you kept, that was how the whole cats and witches thing came to be too.
Now, I didn't know about the barley part. Let's go, Mel. That's dope. Thanks for sharing.
You're welcome.
I was going to say they also blamed Jews. Jews were the Jewish population in many European countries was always isolated as outcasts because they had different religion, different customs, and many Europeans like blame Jews for Jesus, and so they would often find reasons like to hate Jews, like any reason. People sneezing, Jews did it. People the mountains erupting, Jews did it. We're poor, Jews did it. Somebody else is rich, Jews did. You know what I mean? It was always
Jews and women.
Yep. It was always Jews. It was always minority groups. It wasn't like, hey, Europeans, who's screwing you? You are. Anyway. So we hear about that. And we also learn that the Cardi is part of a mass exodus. So it's a bunch of people leaving one place and they are inadvertently spreading the plague. And they don't know if the plague affects other species. And so now we have these two major like questions hanging over. It's like, okay, we got this plague that is spreading through the Marcab. It's like, can any Marcab get it? Well, yes, because Lazarin was like 100% infection rate, 100% fatal. In the meantime, there is this little Marcab girl who has horrible makeup because they put too much detail on her face, so she looks old but little at the same time.
Which is amazing. That small child had to stay in the makeup chair for like 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah. The only parts of her face that can move are her eyes and her mouth.
Her acting their acting was really good too.
It was good. It was good. But it made me think like the makeup is really rough. And I don't know if y'all noticed that the Marcab are basically human colored Drazi. And instead of the Drazi lumps on their hair, they have these like, I don't know, these hexagon shapes on their heads. So there's something about,
it looked like a desert, like cracking clay.
Yeah. There's something about species in Babylon 5 not having noses. So
that's the easiest way to like, is either take away the nose or move the ears. Because we can't move the eyes.
Where Voldemort comes from.
Oh God. And you can't have head ridges. That's way too Star Trek. So yeah.
Yeah.
But what's going on? This little girl is by herself in the Zocalo. She's like looking for Papa. She finds him in the corner or like on a wall or something. She's like, hey Papa, Mom is looking for you. She's gonna be very angry because you're late for food. And I'm like, this is hilarious. They don't want to give her them like an accent or any special culture, but you kind of get what they're saying. And she touches him and he is dead as a doornail. This dude is cold. He slumps over and she's like, oh no, Papa. And then she's crying. She turns around and there is Delin there to show moral support right when she's needed. So real quick, everybody is starting to understand what's going on. Franklin briefs the staff on their situation and their proposed actions on like how to like understand like what they need to do to determine the spread. If there are any onset case studies, they're saying like some people are like, should we like, isolate people? And they're like, no, because it's gonna cause panic. And here's the thing, we don't know if it'll spread from species to species, but it doesn't matter because we're in a space station. We use recycled air and everybody is going to breathe the same air anyway. So what we got to do is as quickly as possible figure out what we need to do. Sheridan orders a station-wide quarantine. In other words, nobody can go, nobody can come, and
they're Australia.
Yeah, right. And Garibaldi, who sucks at his job, he's saying like maybe people are gonna be violent against the Marcab, and he's right about that thing.
Garibaldi was talking about his ability to best protect the Marcab, and if they're all in one place, that would be the easiest thing to do, which is the stupidest thing to do when there is a highly infectious disease going around. Because, I mean, you've got the example of the 200 Marcab on the ship that were all in one place and died. Why would you fucking suggest that? It's just a stupid idea.
Remember earlier when I said Garibaldi sucks? I don't know if I said it this episode yet, but yeah. And
you just said he's stupid.
He's kind of
his job.
He's pretty dumb.
He's bad at his job. That's what you said. He's bad at his job.
Yeah. And so, and Sheridan's like, no, we don't want to do that. We don't want to cause anything crazy. But they show what's happening on the station. There's an escalation of tension. They show these guys beating up a Marcab. This reminds me when COVID-19 was happening and people were acting out violently against Chinese Americans who are Americans, but because they looked Chinese, it's like, oh, it's your fault. And it was just a very dumb thing to do.
History repeated itself, apparently.
Yeah. And also, speaking of dumb things to do, Garibaldi took on 4 people by himself. He hit each one of them and put his gun out. I'm like, okay, you're lucky these are not like street thugs, because you would have got stabbed in the back, or you would have got stabbed or shot again, or stabbed and shot.
Yeah, luckily they're just stupid people who felt like taking their frustration out on an innocent person made sense to them. And now it doesn't make sense, but to them, for some reason, it makes sense. So maybe they were weak-minded. So luckily they were weak fighters. Luckily for Michael.
Yeah. And a couple of things are happening at once. They're like bumping up security because of all of these different conflicts. The Marcab are all being brought to med lab to be tested. They're getting their blood taken, and they're marching in lines. The Marcab ambassador shows up and he makes a big old scene. He's like, I refuse to let you treat my people like this. Like, he says, you are making us look immoral. Like something's wrong with us. And then he's like, in fact, it's your fault. You're the immoral ones. And in order for us to deal with this, we're going to isolate ourselves away from your immorality. So all the Marcab on the station quarantined themselves in a specific place, which, remember how stupid we said earlier it would be to put everybody in one place? Well, the Marcab ambassador decided, hey, we're going to do that.
Well, at least Garibaldi.
That really made me feel bad, because it was like the Pope stepping in, and it's like, yo, this is what we gonna do, and everybody is following like the demands of this one individual who has an ulterior motive in order to do this, and like not the best interest of the population of the people that he is leading. And it also struck me real hard when they were actually walking into the quarantine space and they're shuttling the children and telling them how we are the pure ones and we're just going to go and pray about this, and that the plague is going to skip over us. I know they took that directly from the Bible, and that it just hurts so bad to like really be pumping people up with the belief that this is going to protect them. And then it's hard for me not to even just call on the name of Jesus because it's so culturally ingrained into me, and it's just disgusting that so many people die being led astray instead of like logically, scientifically, and with like the best intentions of what is good for humanity, figuring out the answers to these questions that actually do have resolutions. There are real answers to pandemics and zoonotic diseases
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
all of those things. I'm a land that plane right there, just
Yeah.
trash it.
So what's happening is they are all going into that vault. They go into a vault, like, and
Like that matters.
it's so wild. And Dr. Franklin, he's up in med lab, and they're like, okay, we got to do all this stuff. But now we have Pop Marat are found dead, which now we're finding like, oh crap, this disease may have jumped species. And he's like, okay, I need volunteers for this autopsy. And none of the doctors want to do it. They look petrified. And the Marquette doctor, Lazarin, he's like, look, I'll do it. And so he isolates himself with the dead Marquette. And he knows for a fact he can't leave. Remember, the disease is 100% infectious, 100% deadly. Yeah. So Lazarin locks himself in there, and him and Franklin are like, all right, we're going to figure this out. So Ivanova reports to Sheridan. She's explaining like, here, violence is breaking out against the Marquette. People trying to beat them up. They're scared. And, they're talking about, she also explained how the Marquette are isolating themselves. Sheridan orders the security to redirect so they can control violence. And I'm trying to remember, were they in person at this part?
With what?
Which part?
When Ivanova was talking to Sheridan.
No. When she was telling him to go to sleep and she'll take the first watch.
Yeah. Okay. She's on a screen. Sheridan's in, we see the live feed from his side. And I just thought it was kind of weird. Like, man, she's barely in this episode, actually. She's just on TV screens and monitors and stuff. And Sheridan, he's frustrated. He's like, he's in the midst of like some of the worst stuff that's happening on the station, and nobody knows anything. They don't know if they'll be able to like solve this problem. It's pretty crazy. And Delynn speaks to Sheridan, and she's like, hey, can me and Lanier stay isolated with the Marquette? And he's like, why? This reminds me, like, remember how we've already established the Minbari want to serve. So this kind of reminds me of their commitment to serve and stuff. And they also, I'm kind of feeling like sometimes this is like they're like, we know these people are going to die. Like, can we Mother Teresa this thing? You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like the music in these parts are kind of like dramatic because we're not supposed to have a sense of any hope, right? And so Sheridan and Delynn, they have a moment, and she's like, no, we're going to go. And she's like, I promise you when we meet again, it will be in a place where no shadows fall. In other words, Delynn is like, this is probably going to kill me, but, have hope. And Sheridan, who is very shaken, he's like, look, the next time you see me, call me John. And then she like whimpers and walks away.
Yeah, I really liked the statement that she made when he went to speak into his comms to give the order to let Delynn and them in. She said, don't look away. And it was like, yo, that part, I need you to see me because you might not never see me no more.
Yeah. And so we see that they show Delynn and Lanier are at the vault, and they're the last people going in, and they're locking the door behind them. And
Mm-hmm.
and you like, I don't know about you, but I'm getting a sense of claustrophobia because why are you locking me in a vault? I don't care how holy you think things are. This is this just says death to me.
Well, and then also they don't know if it's airborne either. But then if it's airborne, they already screwed.
Well, yeah, but
I,
we established earlier they're already screwed because they put all the markup together. We don't know the infection. We don't know who's infected and who's not, and so we put them all in the room. So now everybody's gonna get infected.
yeah. So they have
And why couldn't the Pope of this species just quarantine them into their own houses? Why we gotta leave our quarters and go into the vault with you? We can just stay at the house.
Oh
Yeah,
man. I don't think they necessarily had they were a lot of them just traveling, getting away from the planet without saying why. They were so clear that they did not want anyone to know that this is what was happening.
yeah,
So they probably been out that they were probably just rushing out to anywhere to get away from the stigma, what they considered a stigma, which is what they really are running from. But yeah.
yeah. And while that's happening, Franklin is burning the candle at both ends in MedLab, and he just quickly shoots up some stimulants into his wrist. He's like, "Look, there's too much work to do. I can't go to sleep." Lazarin is like, "Look, you taking too many of them stimulants ain't good for you. Like that's bad." Franklin don't care.
He's like, I'm an addict for a good cause. Leave me alone.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where they have their deeper conversation about, plagues and people being scapegoated and all the different ineffective attempts to try to control it. And again, and hopefully this episode doesn't get like banned or muted, but like thinking about COVID-19, not just COVID-19, but like the several bird flus that we've gone through in the past couple of decades. It's funny because they like, and I'm talking about public and mainstream media, were really quick to try to settle on a blame for COVID-19. And people to this day are still believing in a lot of those myths. But, and the reason why is because of how scary that it's supposed to be. But the thing that bothers me, and Sunday and I, we talk about this, she explained the zoonotic, well, she shared about the zoonotic plagues or zoonotic diseases. Our food supply, not ours, but the meat eaters' food supply is like bombarded with disease. There are
Nice way to exclude yourself, babe.
because like all of the chickens, they are plagued with several types of bird flu. All of the pig livestock are plagued with several types of swine flu, and all of those things, they try to kill millions of head of quote unquote stock. Basically, they try to kill millions of animals to keep the disease from jumping species. And y'all don't really hear about it because people don't really report this except to like people investing in livestock. Y'all might remember some years ago the price of eggs just like skyrocketed. That's one of the reasons why. That's how it affects you. But when it comes to like COVID-19, it is infecting people directly, and then people get scared. They don't think about how other diseases can affect us until it does.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people think about how anything affects them until it does.
Yeah.
And it's hard to think about everything that in the world that can affect you. Like, we still just trying to function normally.
Yeah.
My favorite, though, is that you're right. We don't think about it until it happens to you. When it does happen, how the ecosystem already has a solution a lot of the times. And me finding common mullein growing wild in my neighborhood and then using the Google, like the apps that you have on your phone that'll tell you what a plant is, told me that this plant was highly invasive, and here's how you kill it, and die common mullet. I'm like, what is up with this plant? Something must be special about you that they are trying to, get me to stay away. So I went and Googled it. Google tells me that common mullein is able to just like really eradicate all upper respiratory issues, from viruses to bronchitis, asthma, all the things. And since I've learned that, I have been able to use it for me and lots of my family to heal coughs and all kinds of different issues that we were having. And we're having a whole worldwide pandemic, and it's literally killing people. And we have things growing out of the ground that could have helped. It's just wild. And they don't allow like herbalists to promote plants as medicine because, of the pharmaceutical company who is in cahoots with the factory farming. That is the cause of the problem, and they're trying to be the solution to the problem that they're causing, and just forget all the people who are dying in the meantime. I'm complete.
Yeah, the for-profit medical model has proven to be harmful. All right, back to the episode. So we see that Delenn and Lanier are comforting and counseling the Markab. You see these two bonehead Minbari amongst a lot of zero-nose people. And Lanier is tasked with trying to help her find her mother. And they're like, what's going on, little girl? She's like, I need to find Mama. Okay, well, what's your mom's name? Mama. What did they say? Destiny will find a way. Something like that.
Will maintain or something. But I was a kindergartner that didn't know my dad's name. And that shit took me back to my childhood for real. Like, what's your dad's name? It's like, yo, you just said it. It's Dad. What are we talking about here? And I was like, well, maybe we should ask her what her name is and go find Sarah's mom. But no, they didn't do that. They was rolling with faith.
Yeah. So
that reminded me of we actually would teach the students where I used to work their parents' name so that if they got separated, someone can ask, who is your parent? And they can say their name. And a lot of them only knew their parents' nicknames, but that would be even better than nothing. That's better than mom.
So Franklin and Lazarin they realize that Lazarin has early onset of some of these symptoms. He finds out that the Markab's autopsy does confirm plague infection, and now they're trying to focus on like, okay, so how are the Markab and the Park Mara getting this disease? Like, what's in common? In the vault, Delenn and Lanier, they do finally reunite the girl and her mother, and as soon as she meets her, she stumbles, and we're now realizing like, oh wow, this one beautiful, hopeful story has a very tragic path ahead of it, because she's showing the early symptoms of the plague.
Like 20 minutes. It's wild. That's where I thought the little girl's acting was so good. The way she stumbled, it looked really like she had lost her balance.
Yeah.
So it was super sad.
Yeah.
And the vault, I feel like, could be a metaphor for how they treated the knowledge of this plague. The actual like reasoning and science behind them getting sick is something that they put into the vault. They ignore. Like even the false narrative that they give it is all throw it in the vault. We don't want to deal with that.
Now that you mention it, there's also another view, because the secret to the potential cure is also locked in a vault of mystery. Like there's so much that we don't know, and we're trying to figure it out, and we just can't get in, right? Mm-hmm. And it's very frustrating. Franklin, who he's hopped up on his stimulants, and he's throwing stuff around because Lazarin, who was sharing all of his symptoms and stuff, he was like, he had an idea. He's like, why don't you look at the yellow cells? And then he's like, I'm sorry, friend, I can't stay. And then this dude just stops and dies. And it's like, oh shoot, they were so close and he's dead. And Franklin, I like this part, but it's also funny because this actor, he's responding to this death, and he looks around. He's like, okay, I'm gonna throw that, I'm gonna kick that, I'm gonna punch that, and then I'm like, okay, he's not doing anything, and then he just like freaks out. He throws a card over, kicks all the stuff that's on it, and then like throws a thing off of a shelf, and he's all mad. But then the computer's like, we got a match, and it turns out that yes, the Markov yellow cells and the green cells are a good match, and they finally have an explanation for the disease. And I thought the explanation was good, because when they sit there and they tell you like what's going on, the cells have a specific function. He says that the plague targets the specialized cells, the yellow cells and the green cells, that produce essential neurochemicals. And what the plague does, it basically stops them from doing it. So, they have all these symptoms, but it's basically their body slowly shutting down and like suffocating to death.
And that part sound a lot like white blood cells in humans and being affected by AIDS.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And they mentioned that as one of the plagues, and I thought that was interesting. I was also remembering when, what was it? Was it last episode that Franklin had spoken in a very authoritative manner, and then the captain was just like, I see your dad peeking out of you. And then today, when he was ordering the other doctors to go and do an autopsy on that other alien that might have had the disease, and everybody was like, I don't know. And he was like, ain't nobody asked you the fuck you want to do. What you gonna do is go face that disease or deal with me.
Right.
It's like now, and everybody went running up.
They
like,
start scuttling off.
I see you, Dad. Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
Oh, so yep, he is more like his dad than he knows.
Yeah, he got that authoritative voice. So they realize this, and he's synthesizing a cure. He's like, we need to do this real quick. And he's like, he's like, the cure is going to help everybody to produce better cells so they can, function. And we hope that it might work. And Sheridan's like, he's like, look, we don't know if this is going to work or not. We need to do it though. And so they synthesize the cure, and they rush down to the isolated zone, and they're like, all right, let's go ahead and open it up. Hands full of all the cures. There's hope. They open the door. Everybody in the room is dead. Gone. The only people who have a reaction, who move, are Delenn and Lanier. And the entire staff are just shocked, dumbfounded. Delenn approaches Sheridan, and she just grabs him and holds him. She calls him John, and she has the ugliest cry on screen that I have ever seen.
Lip is all inside out and stuff. I was like, girl, put your lip back on your face. Why are you dragging it across his clothes like that?
Because I'm going to erase this part because she wants to drag it across him. So.
Oh, wow. Don't erase it.
She wants to drag lips across Sheridan. So
she knew she was going in there to help them have a more peaceful death. Like you knew you were walking into death. Y'all do 20,000 meditations. You didn't prepare your mind for walking into a vault of death. You knew that. You knew.
Yeah.
Like I would expect them. I personally thought that if they were going to be in that situation, as soon as a lot of the people died or everybody died, they would automatically have a meditation to do to, I don't know. They don't have they didn't have anything for this. They have a routine for everything else.
Yeah.
But she's part human now, so she's got to act different.
And I thought this was a little weird because when we come back, they take a break or whatever, she's having a reflection. She's congratulating. We're talking about Delenn. Delenn has reflections about what happened. She's congratulating the crew and finding a way to stop the plague because everybody on the station has to get an injection anyway because we still don't know how the disease is going to affect other species because it jumps species. So they have to, they still have to administer the cure
or mutate.
Yeah, and they're thanking Sheriff Franklin for his role in it, and this is a great learning experience, and they're basically cautiously optimistic about like, okay, we think we got this crisis under control, but she witnessed like all the Marqueb on the station die like around her, and I don't know, maybe we were supposed to feel hopeful, like, okay, cool, we got this cure that may be able to help people elsewhere. But then all of that is killed because Franklin, he's in the Zocalo watching TV, and basically ISN is like, every member of the Marqueb civilization is dead. Like in ships, different colonies, parts, other planets. Like there might be some survivors in isolated spots, but essentially the civilization is gone. And I'm just like devastated. This TV show forced its audience to witness an extinction. I'm only laughing because that is a wild thing to do. And it's not like some crazy supervillain dropping a bomb. It's not some megalomaniac pressing a button. It's a disease that people didn't want to deal with. They believed lies about. They had myths written all about it. And they built a system of morality around not having it. And they built misinformation around treating it. And so the results is everybody's dead.
That's also where they step in on the speculative fiction of anti-vaccine. Whereas, like, if you had actually looked at it in a scientific way instead of a social way, y'all could have tried to find a solution, but instead you ignored it and thought that whatever social construct there was, instead of assuming that, because when I hear people do anti-vax and blame religion on it, it's like, I have to agree with Family Guy. It's like, don't you think that your God maybe gave us science so that we could use, so that we could cure it? Like, oh, if God was going to cure it, why didn't they? Like, yeah, they did. They gave us science. Y'all ignore it. Y'all are so busy feeding into your ideals that you're not looking at the ideal.
Yeah, it's and the thing, like, the whole anti-vax thing has been around for decades, like since the 90s. We've only true
with penicillin.
Yeah,
like from the get-go, from the invention of vaccines, they were like, oh no, that's not of God. Like,
yeah, and like there are other anti-scientific religious practices where it's like, no, we'd rather let our children die than to have blood transfusions or to be treated for strep throat, and so these people, a lot of them are children, die some of the most painful deaths of things that could have been easily treated. And really it's around that faith for that, for those religions. And it's like, if your faith is strong, then you will survive. But then when somebody dies, they're like, well, God had another purpose. And it's like, what's the purpose of him dying? Because when you're dead, you don't have anything else to do. I don't know. Anyway,
any other time they can say God gave you people in order to help other people, that people should be helping other people, and they don't consider doctors as one of those people.
Oh God. Yeah. I wanted to throw in one more thing. So I thought about this on this last watching. Remember when Jakar was talking about the dark agents of the shadows were moving? I don't know if we visit this again, but could the spreading of the disease be part of one of the dark agents' agendas? Like, couldn't this be seen as a tactic to thin out some of the forces in the galaxy? I'm only posing that. I don't think the Marqueb are brought up very much afterwards, but it's just like, if we put it in that context, like this could be a very strategic move. It does tragically like traumatizes Babylon 5 and Earth, but it makes me think like, maybe it was done on purpose. You know what I mean?
That's very possible because we never know why or how some of the things that they do happen. And maybe it was less obvious with this one. Someone was actually smart about how they were going to take out a whole species.
Yeah.
Without being like causing suspicion. Because what's his name? The one we don't like. The other one we don't like. The alien.
Jeez.
Londo?
Londo,
yeah. He's very... There's a lot of mystery behind how he got his task accomplished. But with this one, if someone wanted to accomplish a task, it's like, oh, dormant disease popped up. That could happen. We're not going to question that. We don't question dormant diseases popping up. Because, I mean, there's some dormant diseases like the measles or the smallpox that occasionally come up. And yeah, sometimes it is because of anti-vaxxers. That's why we still vaccinate for them.
That's crazy. All right. Any final thoughts in this episode? Any reflections?
Science
it was wonderful.
He said science is God-given, at least from my opinion.
Okay.
If you believe in God or whatever divine there is, understanding the world around you should be a part of that God that you choose to see as the bigger picture. And that's just my opinion. Without it, you ignore the world around you, and it will kill you, apparently.
That's good, Neil.
All right. Well, thank y'all for joining us for another episode of Babylon 5 here on Voices in Hyperspace. You can follow us on all of our social media. We're on Facebook, we're on TikTok, and we're streaming on many platforms. You can find those easily. Just look for @Voices in Hyperspace. You can find us on Facebook, so follow our Facebook group, Voices in Hyperspace. You can find me, Legendary Black Lion, on Instagram, and we can continue our conversations there.
I'm Captain Mel Asylum of the Starship Rebellion, and you can find me at melsrebellion.com or #melsrebellion anywhere else.
I'm Nita Painter at www.nitapainter.com. Bye.
Hey, y'all. This is Sunday. Au revoir.
And we'll see you out there.